Allison.
Hey, Chris.
Oh, it's a beautiful day. Hello, my name is Chris King. I'm a licensed therapist. This week I'm stuck in my head. So, what's stuck in your head this week?
Well, so yesterday was the official start of track season at our house. My daughter
Okay.
runs track in spring. My boys did too, which means therefore I now have, hence the hat, the first
Eh.
spring sunburn. Because even though I'm 44 years old and I know that you can get a sunburn on a cloudy day, I just forget. I just forget. And so now I've been kind of,
Right.
but I love watching my kids do stuff. I don't even care if they're like if they win it.
Oh
It just
yeah, 100.
and just the whole vibe. Like, I mean, there were a ton of schools at this track meet yesterday, big schools like, Union, Jinx, Owasso, and whatever. And seventh and eighth grade is all that was there. And these kids are just working their little tails off and they're running
They're
so
like,
hard.
yeah,
And
yeah.
they're jumping and they're doing the whole thing and it's all damn day and I don't know the whole thing. I just loved it. I
It's
loved
great,
it.
isn't it?
It's great. I mean, I don't
I
want to
know.
be
I
the eighth
miss.
grade again, but like,
Yeah, I really miss all that stuff. Fortunately, we have a grandkid coming along. So, like, I was just thinking about the other day, like, literally in 5 years or less than 5 years, we'll be doing it again, which
yeah,
is at some level.
yeah,
So that's cool.
yeah. And then it kind of just got me thinking about it kind of started when we had Greg Taylor on this idea of like, because he mentioned the Anxious Generation book and how impactful it was, and then I made the comment, like kind of Debbie Downer comment, like, yeah, but not really, because like nothing has changed. But
Yeah.
got me thinking kind of like, how do we change our mind? And then it was so interesting that I hadn't really like considered, because I didn't run track, the mental component of athletics. And
Oh, right, sure.
like believing that you can do something or not, and not like arrogance, not like I'm the best, of course I'm going to win, but like just I don't know, the whole mental game. And our daughter was doing an event she'd never done before, and which included hurdles. And I think if you just survive that event, you should just get first place. That's just what I think. If you won it, you all got, I mean, if you finished, you got first place. But and how she was like, I'm gonna be so tired and it's gonna be so hard and I'm not gonna do good. And I'm before she'd even like run it at all. And this invitation to like change your mind and like how
Come
do
on.
you do that?
Yes. Yeah.
Can you do that all by yourself? Is it more helpful with other people, which sort of feels like what we're gonna maybe talk about later, but and then by golly, she went out there and she just freaking did it. Like she didn't win, but she did it. She did it all and she won her heat and like and she was so proud of herself. And
That's awesome.
I was so proud of her too. And I continue to think about like how do we do that? How do we change our mind and what is the role our mind plays? And obviously just more information or compelling content isn't enough and I don't know.
No,
I get kind of
no.
stuck
I,
on that.
I think that we need mentors and coaches and people side by side us to help us have the courage to step out and do new things, which I'm going to talk about. Like
And
that's
obviously
the
a
thing.
certain level of discomfort maybe.
Correct. Yeah.
Like even if
And
mentally you're like, this isn't working for me, but it must be working enough until it's
right. I mean,
like
that's
not.
yeah. I'd signed up for the thing, so I guess I'm going to try it. I'm gonna be in the play, and I'm going to do the workout, and I'm going to do the whatever. Like that.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. And now that's been going on forever, but I do think that these days people and our kids are like increasingly isolated and so I think that like we need helpers to pull that stuff off, and that
But
allows us to change our mind because we're like, oh, I made it through a thing.
isn't it interesting though? Maybe I'm wrong about this. It seems that you can have an abundance of correct, compelling scientific information and it doesn't really move the needle on behavior. And yet it seems like just a little bit of wrong information and everyone's doing the wrong thing. Like Why is why is that? What's going on? Fix it.
I don't know. I just think that safety and fear are like primary motivators. And so we will act to avoid danger and problems and perception of those things. Like that'll get us off our ass. Um,
Especially if it's
but
trauma.
on the in the positive, yeah, on
Back.
the positives, yes, on the positive sense, because you're going to ask later about getting unstuck. That's a much different thing because
Yeah.
that generally is uncomfortable at some level. Like
True. True.
you don't get unstuck without movement. Movement requires pressure and energy and discomfort. It's inertia. It's a problem of inertia.
Yeah.
And so that's why doing it together is super helpful. Like there's a lot of things I want to talk about. We're afraid we're gonna run out of time. Like before I leave you with was there anything else that's stuck in your head?
My head is that's it. That's all that's in my head.
I have like six things stuck in my head, but I only talk about like one of them or two of them.
Okay, go.
So last week we mentioned that a good friend of mine that I grew up with passed away, and that was difficult. Kind of still in the middle of all that stuff. One of the things that I realized today about growing up with this guy, Barry Elam, was that I was a little boy. I would have been like 8, and he would have been 14 or something like that.
Mhm.
And he was so full of energy and so full of like man energy. He would be like, "Hey, you wanna?" And forgive me, I know I've said this to someone, and if I said it on the podcast, we're just gonna have to cut it because I don't know if I said this last week. So there's that. But
Find
he was
out.
like, yeah. So he'd be like, "Hey, Jackie's about done with his half pipe. Let's go skate Jackie's half pipe." I'm like 8, right? And Barry's like,
Yeah.
"Let's go skate. Let's go skate the half pipe." I'm like, Yeah. I'm like the little kid, like, and he's
Of
always so
course.
full of energy. He's always looking for an adventure. He's not afraid of the pain or the whatever. I mean, maybe he was, but he never showed it.
Yeah.
And he was kind of a mess in a lot of ways. But my 8-year-old self didn't care because I didn't
Yeah.
really have anybody like leading me in that way. He's like, "Do you want to go skate?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I didn't know that it was like a 9 mile or 10 mile ride in the summertime. And I'd be like, "Hey, well, like, what if we get thirsty?" And he's like, "We'll just stop in people's yards. We can drink their hoses. It's fine."
It's fine.
And that's literally what we did. So I'm 8 years old and he's, 13-ish, 14. We're riding our motocross bikes with skateboards tied onto the handlebars in the summer,
Drinking.
literally 9 or 10 miles. And when we got hot, we would like stop and like go up and knock on someone's door and drink from their hose. Okay.
You would ask. That's nice.
I think we did. Yeah. I remember people being like, "Well, sure."
Yeah. Just wherever.
Um, yeah. And then we go skate and then we ride all the way back home. And I told Kristen this because she has said this before. She's like, one of the things that I love about you and I really fell in love with was just your sense of adventure. You
Yeah.
know, that you're like, you want to go get it. You want to go do the thing. And I'm like, and I said to her, I said this weekend, I said, I don't know that I would have had that without him. And he didn't know he was giving that,
Right.
right? He was just being himself.
Yeah.
He was helping me by being the best version of him
Mm.
and bringing me along.
Yeah.
And and my life is completely different because of that than it would have been without it. And I'm amazed by that. And
Yeah.
I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
And I think that lesson is burned inside of me because that's kind of what I've wanted to be for a lot of people. And I know you're the same way.
Yeah.
And so bringing people along, just trying to be the best people we can be
Yeah.
to help them have the courage to get unstuck, to have the courage to do the thing, to have the courage to be like curious, to try something that might be better for their lives or for others. Like that is a beautiful, awesome thing that people can do for each other. And I thank Barry for that. And so I'm going to get a chance to speak at his memorial on Saturday.
Oh, awesome.
And yeah, it's going to be a beautiful thing. It's going to be super sad, but it's going to be beautiful. And that's an opportunity we have, and it doesn't even require any big time formal education or seminary or like, I don't, just love that person and bring them with you.
Yeah. It's very
And you don't
simple.
even know what it's going to do. You don't know what it's going to do.
And that's not what it's about,
Mm-mm.
right? It's not about being in control of what it's going to do.
No.
It's just about being you, believing that that's
I
your only call.
Yeah,
Is
I feel compelled to go skate the ramp. I mean, this week when I was feeling kind of out of sorts, I went and rode 20 miles on my bike when the weather was nice and I was very in sorts. I became combobulated. So if this little conversation part, like our pre or part of our podcast today, is about, you know, like getting help and or feeling stuck, and how do people get unstuck? Like sometimes we don't even know we're stuck. It is about inertia. Literally when the car is stuck, like we got to start it rocking.
yeah. Yeah.
So today, as we talk to an expert, sometimes you or I are the expert, sometimes not. My question that I wanted to talk about today is, okay, so like when you need help,
Yeah.
like who do you go to and like how does that work? It feels like a very practical question. Guess it kind of is because we have people call our office all the time that need help when it comes to like mental health kinds of things. And you know, the relationships in their life for some reason aren't working, be it, when we're talking about like orientation, right? Like their relationship with their own selves is becoming unmanageable, or their relationship in a marriage, or their relationship with alcohol or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I do know there's a lot of helpers out there and there's a lot of options out there, but it feels like a pretty big menu, and
Hmm.
like how to navigate that. I'm a little curious what you guys do in the church community. Like, how does that work? Let's start with kind of where you work and what your thoughts are about, like, you know, people need help. Maybe they come to us, maybe they don't. Maybe we just notice it.
Yeah.
Like, how does that normally go
It's kind of
well, and
tricky.
how does that break down sometimes?
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely a mixed bag, I think, especially when we talk about it from like the church world perspective. There's a lot of differing opinions about who do we invite into our stuff and who do we not invite into our stuff, and that sometimes is broken down by age, like and like culturally, maybe 50 years ago, we didn't talk about our stuff. Now we just talk about everything. And so trying to find a at a multi-generational church, we have a lot of different experiences like that. And I would
Yeah.
say in the student area and family area, I am our department is a starting point for a lot of people.
Hmm.
My daughter's not doing good, my son's not doing good. They're having trouble with their friends, or we're having trouble at home. Would you talk with them? Can they talk to you? Yeah, of course.
Hmm.
Of course.
Hmm.
And or the middle school pastor or high school, whatever. But then the onus is on us to recognize when we're out of our element, like when what we're talking about isn't they just needed ears. It's because sometimes you do. You just need someone to listen and like validate, oh yeah, I bet that is hard. It's going to get better. And sometimes that's enough. And then sometimes it's not enough. And then it gets even tricky, because then it's like, hey, I know, because some people at the church thing, they want a Christian counselor.
Right,
And I'm
right.
like, I don't really know what that means exactly. But we have a list, right? We have this we at our church, we have like a list of resources of names that are specifically they call themselves Christian counselors. Here's a list of other counselors that we know that maybe don't call themselves that, but that doesn't mean that they aren't, and it doesn't mean that they won't work with you if that's your context. And then insurance, and it's all the different things, but I would say a lot of times the church is a starting point for a lot of people. For some reason, going to talk to your pastor feels okay, but going to talk to a therapist feels really scary. um And I don't know
Well,
if that,
why do you think that's true?
I don't know. I think there's still residual, like, oh, I have to go to therapy. There must be something real. Man, there's something really wrong with me. And it's like, what? Like, I think there's still some of that, whatever that is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think that's real. I also think that when it comes to like a pastor or someone in a church community, that there's just familiarity. I mean, like people call
Yeah.
me all the time. They're like, well, we know you. And sometimes that's like, we'd call that a dual relationship. Like it's not good for me to counsel people
Yeah,
that I
like I
know,
can't.
et cetera. Right. Yeah. But like, I think that familiarity, I was just thinking, I was speaking to a group about mental health stuff last week, and it was a youth group room, a
Hmm.
place you're very familiar with. I hadn't been
Yeah.
in a youth group room. I hadn't been in a youth group room in several years. And it was so interesting. My mid 50s self like went, and then I went to talk to the people that I knew, the
Hmm.
person that booked me and arranged me. And then
Yep.
we met a few people. And then I stood around there while all these teenagers were trying to navigate their own space. And I'm like, I'm in effing eighth grade again. Like,
Yeah.
because I don't know that I felt like a lot of nervousness or like insecurity and not knowing where to go or what to do. But that feeling and belief was not absent.
Right.
It was a part of my stuff. And that happens kind of when I go like any place new. And I was like, oh yeah, like the need for connectedness
Hmm.
is almost everything. Like if I'm
Yeah.
gonna like when I'm 100% alone, again, depending upon me, if I'm better at doing stuff alone, then that's fine. But you know, what's expected of me? Who are my people? What do I do? Am I going to look at my phone before it's my turn to talk?
Hmm.
But like that I'm I shouldn't be doing that here. But maybe in the waiting room at the doctor's office, I can.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I
just
still
like
think there's a
connectedness,
I still think there's a battle of, like, I remember I went to a child psychologist in the third grade. So
right?
let's see, I was like 9. So it was
Right?
like 1989, 1990 maybe. I can tell you confidently, I knew zero other third graders that were going to therapy. Zero. And I went like 2 or 3 times and it was super helpful. And then we moved again and I didn't go anymore. But I remember
Yeah.
carrying with me, this is my secret. This is the thing I don't want anyone to know I've had to do. And
Huh.
like I don't like keep it a secret when I have a doctor's appointment. If I'm like, ah, something's gone wrong with my ear, I think I'm gonna go to the doctor and get my ear checked out. Like that
Right.
doesn't bother me one bit. But there, I think we aren't still, we're still not, we're better, but we're still not quite there in thinking about taking care of our mental health in the same way that we talk about taking care of our physical health. And so, and I think then you throw the religion piece in there for some people, and there's this like old belief in there that like if I love God enough, I shouldn't have these kinds of struggles. May do you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. No,
so
it's
it's
problematic.
this really like convoluted thing.
Well, so when people are looking for where to get help, like so many people in our region, like are part of that faith-based thing. And for me, the principle that I ought to be leaning into is like, does the person that can help me display, at least as far as I can know, a true sense of like validating and aligning with like the dignity of the people involved?
Hmm.
Or are they more interested in them getting something right? If they're more interested in getting something right, I would unabashedly say this is someone or some system to be avoided.
Mm.
If they're interested and you can believe and trust that they have your best interest at heart and are open to being helpful in that way, like we all need mentors, we all need teachers, we all need helpers. And in the church that can happen. But so the step beyond that you said is like whenever we're kind of above our heads when
Yeah.
it comes to crisis or something we feel like that we need someone that's all they do is mental health stuff. Like now we get called in.
Yeah.
And so
Like at
one
our
of my
church,
friends,
they don't call
go ahead.
me at that point at our church, they stop calling me and they start calling my husband. They're like,
Right.
this is above your pay grade, but it's definitely in his pay grade. So we're just going to call Myers and we're going to ask him. He does his little magic and sends us where he needs to go, which is usually
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
office.
Yeah. That's how that works.
Yeah.
So it's a super practical question. And so well, we want to take about 10 minutes today, maybe 15, to talk about uh, where do you go for help and kind of how does it
Mhm.
work? So my friend Michael McClendon, psychologist, certified psych, nationally certified psychologist. Like you can see
Mm,
this guy in 41 different states
true.
online. Do you know that?
Well, what's wrong with the other nine, Michael?
They didn't want to play. I don't know. They don't play nice with others. I can't. I
Yeah,
don't know what to tell you. You got to
that's
ask
real.
It's
their
their
state board.
problem.
Their
It's their
problem, not mine. Yeah.
You do an awesome job with our team. You're doing psychological testing for people, but that's not all that you
Right.
do.
Right.
You know, you're doing therapy. You're involved in a lot of relationship stuff, like
Right.
sex issues and with couples and individuals. A
Hmm.
lot of work with men.
Hmm.
Like you're doing great work, but like the question did come up in our conversation like last week. We're like, people don't like not know the difference of who to go to for what.
Yeah.
So can you give us like
It's
the kind of
surprising.
the quick scoop, and I'll fill in the gaps. Like if you're
Yeah.
hurting and something's going south, like who do you call to do the thing?
Yeah. So, in the way that it often plays out, and even among providers. So, providers is a big group, right? That includes medical doctors, which could be an MD or a DO, or could be a nurse practitioner. I'm not even going to go into all of those different things, but any kind of medical provider or any kind of mental health provider. But often people get confused specifically between a psychiatrist and a psychologist. So we'll start there. Um, so it's helpful to know that a psychiatrist is someone who it's a medical doctor that has done specific rotations to be trained in what are called psychotropic medications. Those are the typical SSRI, antidepressants, the anxiolytics, the Prozacs of the world, all of that stuff that people sometimes want and need. They are specialist doctors that have done specialized training and stay up to date on updates in the chemical formulas of those medications and prescribe those medications. Rarely are they actually people who have been trained in therapeutic practices. That's not to say that they can't be therapeutic in just their interactions with you, because often if they're caring and they have good bedside manner, they can be therapeutic, but that doesn't mean that they've been
Right.
trained in therapy. And so oftentimes I'll talk to clients and they'll say, "Oh yeah, I saw my therapist and they wrote me a prescription." Well, in the state of Oklahoma, that's kind of a sure sign that they saw a medical doctor that is a psychiatrist that wrote them a prescription, and they had about a 15 to 20-minute conversation, because that's, in the grand scheme of things, that's what most psychiatrists are able to offer in Oklahoma, because there's not enough of them and they have such big caseloads. So it's not that they wouldn't offer
Yeah.
more time, it's just the limitation of what they can bill and how their schedules are set. So that often gets confused within psychologists. Psychologist is someone who has a doctorate, right? Either just a doctorate or went through a master's and then a doctorate program, but has a doctoral degree in some form of counseling, clinical. Sometimes it can be industrial organizational and or even school psychology, but school psychology is a whole different monster too. But in the state of Oklahoma, psychologists are licensed unto themselves in this way. And it just means that we have a doctorate in that regard, which means that we went through a little bit longer incubator to get to absorb a little bit more knowledge about how the mind works. But psychologists in general have held on to certain types of the practices, including psychological assessment. So literally, psychological assessment was born out of psychology in America, helping largely helping the U.S. figure out who would be a good soldier to be in what unit in World War II. But
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
different
Yep.
conversation. But that psychologists typically kind of hold the reins on doing kind of testing in that regard. So if you have a question as to whether or not you have ADHD, or if someone's looking to get a certified autism diagnosis, or if they're looking for the quote unquote right paperwork for their IEP, or to get extra time on the test in college, The psychologist is usually the one that is there to help you out in that. There's a little bit of change in that, where master's level clinicians are now able to do some certain training in some degree of assessment, but that's kind of rare and fewer and farther between. Most of the work out there from an assessment standpoint in that regard, where you're going to get a report and a diagnosis, is from a psychologist. The other thing that they do is they do a lot of the teaching and the research, so that you can't really be a professor at a university without having a doctorate degree. And to
Right.
do certain levels of research, you have to have accomplished a doctoral degree. So those are kind of the things that separate that. Aside from that, from like a clinical perspective, the question of like, who do you go to? If you're
I
looking for
mean,
testing, go to a
psychologists can
psychologist.
be a therapist. Like
Yeah,
they
I
might
mean,
do that. That's what you do.
yeah, that's what I do. So there's not as many of us out there. There's fewer of us out there. But we do therapy, and and do kind of the same therapy that you would find at any other kind of mental health practitioner is doing. It's just that sometimes it specializes in kind of also adding in other elements of like the psychological assessment and stuff like that. And we often have different roles if we're in a hospital. VA psychologist, VA therapist, by and large, are psychologists. The VA really leans hard on that, because they want
Yeah.
certain things to be practiced in certain ways. And then you have like mental health therapists, which can be a master's level, someone that's coming from a variety of different schools of thought, whether it's marriage and family therapy, social work, counseling, or clinical psychology, with counseling and clinical psychology not really having much of a distinction between the two. But um, at the most, it's counseling tends to be a little bit more positive in how they see problems in people's worlds, and clinical tends to be a little more pathologizing in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
generally the lay of the land out there for who you want to go to and who you want to see in those situations.
So I want to follow up because there's still gaps. So that's the reason why, like Googling it and looking like for just
Yeah.
general mental health organizations, that can be helpful because there need to
Right.
be gatekeepers. But like you mentioned, so like there are marriage and family people, which you don't have to be an LMFT, licensed marriage and family therapist, to do that, but
Right.
it does help.
Sure.
And we have clinical social workers and we have counselors, we have psychologists. They're all a little different. The psychologists have more education. But then you also have LADCs, licensed alcohol and drug, who
Yep.
can do therapy as well if they have a certain certification level.
Right.
And then there's the difference between, do I want to call the private practitioner or the
Right.
group that operates, like there's like for us there's like 30 of us in a bunch of different sites, but there's a lot of places in Tulsa where there's like 4 people or 6 people.
Right.
Or
Agency.
that's right, is the need kind of global, and is there an economic component?
Right.
Because generally, like the vibe is that therapy is expensive and insurance can
Yeah.
pay for it. But then there's also like a whole world of agency work, meaning like in Tulsa, there'd be family and children's services or pre-oaks or different folks like this that serve thousands upon thousands of people. And
Right.
it sometimes can feel like, and generally they're connected in with Medicaid and Medicare and various ways for there to be financial assistance. But throughout those systems of care, and they're usually pretty broad, they
Yeah.
have all these guys, all these people,
Right.
and even more, like to take
Right.
care of social needs or economic needs. And
Right.
so it can be, in a very real sense, a clearinghouse for needs if you get a hold of one of the big community outfits, but also like there's a lot of people and you might not quite get the same attention. So there's that. Have
Yeah.
we,
And then there's
right?
inpatient hospitals and outpatient
Exactly.
treatment, right? So there's a lot of different
Yeah.
terms to go around. I mean, I think your distinction about the economic one is good for like the agency work. The agencies do great work, especially in the rural spots. Like they are really trying to close the gaps out in the in-between spaces. If we're just focusing on Oklahoma, in between and around Tulsa and Oklahoma City, and maybe if you include kind of Muskogee and Tahlequah, the agencies are doing the brunt of the work out there and trying to help
Yes.
people. Because
Yeah.
there's not a lot of independent practitioners, independent therapists of whatever ilk. There's not a lot of them out there kind of in the rural areas, because it's harder to be a clinician in a rural area because of all the confidentiality that you have to have. It's harder to be in a small town and do this work than it is to be in a large town. And also you need a larger group to like actually be able to, you need a larger population and actually to be able to do this work in that way. So agencies offer the ability to do that in a rural setting. So in no way am I in any way kind of disparaging on the agencies. They're doing great work in there. But it often comes down to, what are your resources, right? How much care are you needing? Do you need a psychiatrist and a family therapist because what's happening is really disruptive to your family, and an individual therapist for one or more members of your family? At that point, an agency might be, or a group practice, a larger group practice might be the answer, because they have more therapists to kind of throw, or more resources to throw at that situation, versus a single practitioner that is doing their own thing. That's like, I can't see all of you. I can see one of you, or I can see one formation of you. And then you got to go somewhere else in like a referral.
Yeah.
And I can't prescribe medication to you. So you're not going to be able to get it in like a one-stop shop. So like that plays a factor. The other thing is, like, if you're getting resources in a school, it's largely going to be coming from an agency in that regard, because the agencies have contracted with most school systems in that regard to help them and to support students in those ways. And then just to kind of jump on inpatient real quick, inpatient is when psychology and mental health is at its worst. Think of it as like the emergency room of mental health, right? You don't go to the emergency room unless you're broken or bleeding. You don't go to the inpatient unit unless you need someone else to assure that you are going to be safe through the night, and to wrap layers of care around you to make sure that you are stabilized and in a place that you can heal and convalesce until you are ready to walk on your own 2 feet from a mental standpoint. That's what an inpatient unit is for. And then outpatient is what everybody else is doing, but can look like intensive outpatient, where you're going in Monday through Friday and doing like really intense work, but you're not staying the night. You're not staying there for a long time. And that can revolve around kind of recovering from substance use and substance abuse, eating disorders, or having like a severe situation, like a severe mental health emergency, where you're at risk for hurting someone, yourself or someone else, or you lost touch with reality and are needing to kind of build step-by-step building blocks to get back to a place where you can operate in your own world in that way.
I think something that would be helpful, because I have actually experienced this with people before too, is something that would be helpful for just the average listener is, okay, so I've done the thing, I've called the place, and then now I get to pick somebody, or I get assigned somebody or whatever. And that process of evaluating, is this working or not? And like,
Oh yeah.
how many times do I give it before I say, this is not my person? Or,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, is it okay to change your therapist if I don't know, like all of those.
Yeah, all of those.
Kind of complicated. And it's frustrating, right? Like you're going to to a therapist because you have this need that you want to address, and you're being so brave. And then I talked to
Yes.
someone the other day who said, well, I've had 3 and one of them fell asleep on me in
Oh
session.
my gosh.
I was like, well, that person probably shouldn't be doing that work anymore.
No. And a lot of people don't go back.
Well, and that's what I was like. I told this person, I was like, well, good for you, first of all, because I'm sorry that that happened. And yay, that you weren't like, whatever, I'm done with this. Like that you're still like trying to find the right fit. But I think sometimes that piece of it maybe is one of the things that maybe keeps people from calling is, how do I find that fit? And what if it's not a fit straight out of the gate, and those kinds of things.
So you're right. Like the effort of going to therapy is one of those things that is really hard to do and takes a lot of courage, because you're about to name something that you haven't really wanted to deal with for a while, some kind of amount of time.
Yeah.
One of the things that I tell every client that I meet with within like the first 2 sessions is look, finding a therapist is like shopping for a car. And you're going to have to do some test drives on occasion, right? Like that car on paper looks like exactly what you want. And then you drive it for about 5 to 10 miles and you realize that the lumbar support really sucks and it's not a fit for you and it just doesn't work. Or it's a little louder than you wanted it to, or it doesn't, whatever, right? And so
My therapist is
I,
too loud for me. I'm kidding.
I'm a loud guy. Like, I have a big booming voice. I tell people, like, I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. You need to find someone where you feel comfortable in that regard. And I often get asked, like, what's the thing? Like, how do I test? How do I know if a therapist is good? Right? And it's a really hard question to really evaluate. I have one litmus test that I tell everybody. The one litmus test that I'll tell you is that if you sit down in a therapist office, and I don't care if it's from the first appointment or the last appointment, and you look them in the eye and you say, I don't think this is working well. I want you to provide me referrals. If they balk at that conversation, if they can't engage in that conversation to first say, okay, tell me what's not working, right? Like, let's talk through what the issue is and find out, is there a solution in this? Or is that going to inform me as a therapist to go through my Rolodex and say, you know what, I think this person is probably a better match for you. If they balk at that conversation and they can't have it with you, run for the door,
Mm.
because they are not equipped to handle the nature of what we have to handle in that room and have delicate, hard, nuanced conversations that sometimes don't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
That's the only litmus test I have. And it's a good, even if they're not the fit for you, it's a good indicator that you're headed down the right path, and that their referral to the next person is a warmer path towards what's going to be a good fit for you.
Yeah.
We want to be helpful to people, and like whether or not you use our service or not, like people
Right.
need help. All right.
Right.
So two things. Do you feel heard, and do you feel connected? Like we say, we do relational mental health therapy, and basically it's like, can you feel yourself being comfortable enough in a situation that there can create movement to work with your stuff and with you as an individual? So I use the trust matrix, and I have a little spiel that I give. And it's really just this, like, trust matrix, it's like a XY. And it's basically the two pieces are competency and benevolence.
Mm.
So like, I don't need my plumber to be a super nice guy. I need him to be kind of a nice guy, but I need him to be very competent at plumbing. He's got to be awesome at that. My mechanic, who is both, by the way, which means I trust him a lot. Nice guy, sure. But if my mechanic is like, we're like super tight, we're like, he's awesome. And my wife would say to me, well, why? And I'm like, because he's cool. Like, dude, he likes Radiohead and he rides mountain bikes, of course. Like, I trust him as a buddy, maybe. So we need to be able to pull off both. And I ask him, I was like, if you feel like that, like in our conversation and with anyone on our team, if you feel like, and it's hard to judge, it's scary. A lot of people come to us with real trust problems, right? Because they've been injured and hurt.
Yes.
Right. So it's a tough thing, but like, do you feel like they're interested in helping, and they're benevolent, they're kind, they care about what's interesting for you and what you need? And then two, do they demonstrate at some level some sort of competency? And again, it's kind of a low bar. You just got to know, okay, like, is there something that you're going to say or demonstrate to me that kind of keeps me connected? And some of that involves some research, but some of it's just about your first meeting. And then I would also say, in my first meeting, in my spiel, when I'm giving it to people, like, talk a little bit about myself and limits of confidentiality and things like that. I always say this, and I think it's funny because I think I'm funny, which is becoming less and less true the deeper I get into my 50s. So there's that. I say, you got to understand one thing too, like, we might not be the best fit, and that could be uncomfortable for you if you have to tell your story or whatever it is you're going to say today to somebody else. I don't love that. Generally, if you get to this point, there's a pretty good chance I'm a good guy for you. But, I generally think of myself, I'm probably like about the third best therapist in our building on a good day. But I'm going to be the best version of me, and that's probably going to work really well for you. But if not, I know a lot of people, and we are ethically committed to finding to at least working towards helping you find another match inside or outside of our group. Like, we are committed to your well-being, and we're going to work. We're going to work to do that.
And now everyone in your group is like, am I 1, 2, or 10?
Exactly.
I know I'm not 3. I know I'm not 3.
It's a mystery.
Yeah.
It also just depends on,
depends on the day.
Did I have any gastrointestinal issues the night before? There's things.
Yeah.
Yep, there's things.
Right.
Did I have a podcast? Your appointment.
Affect my performance level. Yeah, exactly. So, but I think, that's a really important question. And then we've got to be able to kind of like be gatekeepers for that. It's really, really hard, but I think, and I know there's a lot of other practices in town and also some big community outfits that are like, you've got to look around and try to get a measure for their heart. That's why references, and this is always a word of mouth kind of gig, I mean, camp was that way, right, Alison? Like people be like, well, I'm going to send my kids away for a week. Like, that's crazy. Like, well, but if your people you know and love believe in it.
Right.
And so really it's our job and the job of everyone else in our profession to like do an awesome job, like be people of character, do what you say you're going to do. Don't operate outside your like area of expertise, and then be very willing to let it go and hand off to someone that's better than you or more needed or a better connection. The more we all do that, like the better the public is like the more better experiences they have in healing and growth.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel for you guys though. I mean, I'm married to a therapist, so I have all the heart for you guys. But as someone who works with parents and young kids, it's like, well, my kid went to counseling and it didn't work or whatever.
Yeah.
And this idea of it's not the same as like, hey, can we just do this strep throat test real fast and find out what's wrong with me? It's totally dependent on the story that the person tells, which may or may not be true. It's the one they believe, or it's the one they're willing to say out loud. It may not even be true. And that you guys are, and so I think maybe this is just for the parents and the like support systems around people in therapy that are listening, like the therapist can only work with what they're given.
Yep.
And sometimes people show up at therapy because someone said they had to.
100%.
And sometimes people show up at therapy because they want to. And those are two different, and obviously, you guys are trained in both of those kinds of scenarios, but I mean, that's a tall order to get a person to talk about something that they've barely admitted to themselves.
Yeah.
And then to get fixed. Like, I think maybe that's another piece of this is managing expectations about how long something is going to take.
Yes. We're not a society that is tolerant of a long form process. And
no, we're not into the long game.
No, and self-change and growth and I mean what you said about like we do not practice in the world of truth. We practice in the world of experience. So I deal with the experiences that walk in my door, and my job is not to find out the truth and not to convince you of a truth. It's to help you not feel boxed in by the experience that you're telling me. And what you're telling me by showing up in my door is that the experience that you have is limiting your functioning from being able to access the full spectrum of mental health in the world. And that limitation has pinched you enough to do something brave. My job is to help you unwrap that experience from strangling you away from those other awesome opportunities within that spectrum of mental health to experience the world in a more vibrant way. And so
that's very well said, Michael. Yeah.
But that takes time. I mean, holy cow, that takes time. You know what I mean? Like what I just said is way easier said than done.
Sure.
So.
Well, and again, in the spectrum of help, like there is triage work that maybe us as outpatient people might do, like to just try to band-aid it and make like, again, it's like finding the log to float on when the boat capsizes. And we might do some of that. And that's what, an inpatient or an intensive outpatient situation may do. And some of us are better at that than others.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I do think that the word therapy is a really good one whenever we think about trauma or chronic stress or the things that bring you in, just like physical therapy. Like, okay, look, like I needed the ER to patch me up, or maybe it wasn't so bad that I had to go to the ER, but this is not getting better. It's getting worse. And I've got to go to someone to walk beside me, to give me a thing, maybe to get their hands in there a little bit, and that they know something I don't, but also that I can develop a relationship with them to just kind of keep moving, to help it heal, and then maybe to help it grow. And when we look at it like that, that metaphor physically has been really, really helpful to me and to the other people that we work with. So I think one thing we did in this brief conversation was that we really unwrapped it, and that people are like, holy shit, there's a lot there.
Out there.
But
you're welcome.
But now we got to squeeze it back, and we got to say, all right, what? Okay, I need help. What do I do? And it might be about calling 988 or 911. I'm in crisis, but we're gonna have to trust someone to guide us to a place. And if it's not the someone, if you're totally alone, you got to reach out and look around, do your best to try to find someone that looks like they care.
Yeah.
And then back it up with some stuff that's real. Yeah. I mean, what do you think, Michael? Like if we're going to squeeze all that back in, like how do we do that for ourselves?
I would say, like, if you're in crisis, obviously go to the emergency room, call 988, call 911, like broken, bleeding, the equivalent of that in a mental health standpoint.
Yeah.
Like you're not sure you're going to make it through the day. That's not what we're talking about.
We got to live. That's right.
What we're talking about now is like, I'm not living the life that I want to live, but what do I do? One of my favorite sayings is that a journey of 1,000 steps begins with one. That one step doesn't have to be perfect, and it's not the end step. It's not the one that's going to get you down to where you want. It's just starting literally out your door on the path. So calling anybody and starting there, even if it's bad, even if it's wrong, is a good step towards finding the good. Because if you engage, as much as I hate it, I don't want you to engage with something that's a negative experience. But if you experience that negative experience, now I know what I don't want. And that helps me, that helps guides me towards what I find that I do want. So we have to divorce ourselves from this idea that everything I do has to have a perfect outcome, because that's not how the world works. And that's not how any of this is meant to work. You are going to have imperfections and failures that lead towards successes. So take the first failure and then find your success.
Yeah. To see it as a percentage. I mean, like also, and as the relationship grows, like a good therapist will acknowledge that. Like, and they might even like split the difference a little bit. Like I have people that I've worked with that I'm like, in this area, this dude's going to be very helpful to you. So I was wondering, since we have a relationship that's helpful to you, if we backed off our sessions a bit, but you like went for like 2 months to do this one thing, like we can share that load and we can be helpful to you. And there's 100%. A community of us that do that all the time.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great message. And it gets us back to the thing, Alison, you and I were talking about at the beginning of the hour about being stuck. Like, just ask for help, man.
Yeah.
Like reach out. It could be at the church. It could be in the family. And if it needs to be therapy, like there are those of us in that world that charge a lot, and there are those of us in the world that kind of charge nothing. Like, they're out there.
Yeah.
So we want to help. And this is not a commercial for us. This is more of a commercial about like, what do you do to get help?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, Michael, you are available for psychological testing. This is a commercial. You're available for psychological testing. You're available for therapy. You're with GPS. How do we reach you?
You can reach me through the GPS website. You can reach out. You can find me on Psychology Today. If you search my name, Michael McClendon. You could probably just even search Michael in Tulsa and come up with me.
Michael in Tulsa.
And Psychology Today. I don't know if you just do that with Google.
It's like
wow.
I mean, you're good.
add Psychology Today.
Michael.
I'm not that good. No. It's Psychology Today.
That's your URL. You don't have a
I
last
wish.
name anymore, right? You gave up the
No.
last name?
Just Michael and
Michael
Tulsa.
at Tulsa. I should get that URL. But then, yeah, the GPS website, if you go to gpstherapies.com, I'm part of the team, and you can you can sign up right there through the website to submit your information to set up a profile, then reach out to me, and I'll get back to you and set up a time for us to meet.
Yeah.
And if you want to test drive, I'll set up a time to make a call with you at no charge.
Find out about your lumbar support.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Well, your advice in like all the different varieties and kinds of things that are available to us, and your philosophy about it has been very helpful, as well as any side conversations about cars. And again, lumbar support's like no small thing. So,
yeah, no. When you're starting to approach 40s and 50s, you appreciate it more and more.
That's what I'm talking about. I appreciate that word.
Yeah. Sounds great.
Michael.
Thanks, y'all. Bye.
When you need help, ask for help. Usually that's going to be with someone that you trust, or a friend, or someone that's already within your map of relationships that work for you. But if it ain't there, if it's not there, like, get on the Googs, go to your church, like, find someone that can help with the thing. And you don't even have to tell them the whole thing. And if it's an emergency, if you're in danger of death or dismemberment or whatever, like, you gotta call the 911 or the 988, like, do the thing, man.
And I think if you are like ready to take that therapy step and you're not really sure who to call, like, I think it's also not, I want to really encourage people to not be afraid to say what they already know or think they need. Like, I don't want to talk to a man, or I don't want to talk to someone younger than me, or I don't want to, whatever. Like, and maybe you have no idea, but if you do, like, everything that you know about what you think about this experience is helpful, because it's one less thing you have to try to figure out in the moment. Like, if you already know these things, and like, offices are set up to help in that way. Like, oh, actually, I know just the person, or they need to be on my insurance, or whatever those needs are. Like, don't be afraid to say the things that you need to help make the space feel as safe as possible for you.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, growing and healthy people make the world better. And so, just back to the beginning of the podcast, like, a person tried to be their best version of themselves and dragged me along. Mm-hmm. And frankly, I think that's what's happened for a lot of our therapists. They've altered their career choices. You've done that in ministry. You've said, I want to be a helper to people for these things, because of these things that I believe. And so I get it that it's not perfect, and all people are different. At the same time, it's a good thing. It's worth it. So we are out of time, my friend.
We're out of time.
Boom. Just want to thank you for your time today. I want to thank Michael, our guest. Thank Drew King for putting it together. Maggie King for being his big sister. Mother of my grandchild.
My husband, my parents, for my mom, and for listening. We have a lot of feeling grateful.
Thank the family members. We will see you in a week. You guys, thank you. Remember, like it, subscribe it, send it, do the thing. Alison, talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.